that a new camera that I spy? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Ooh, what do we have here? That's right, it's 4K, baby. Living in the future. What it do? New resolution peeps? What up? It's me, your boy, Joe Van. But you guys already knew that. You've been around for a while, eh? So what exactly is this? Maybe a hello 2021, something like that, right? It's been a minute since I've said hi. I've been making videos kind of consistently, but what's up? It's one of those things. First off, if you're new here, hello, welcome, how do you do? Welcome to Primate Nation. I am your host, Joe Van, also ambassador of the nation. If you guys haven't already checked out, I got Monke in review coming up. I got my thoughts pieces that I've made. I got fun old tier lists. That one's kind of a classic cliche. I got my novels on my website. I got my classic podcast, Joe Van Secret Podcast. I got the Unplugged podcast. All of these things, I'm just gonna bushel them all up and put them down in the description below. So where do we pick things up? In 2013, I was very sad and decided to make a YouTube channel and start spending my time doing that instead of just drinking. However, I kept drinking and then kind of stopped making YouTube videos. Fast forward, I stopped drinking in the advent of 2018 going on 2019, and I try to get into the movie biz. As I'm doing that, I start making little movie reviews here and there on my YouTube channel. Then 2020 happened, I was locked down just like everyone else, and what did I do with my free time? Started making YouTube videos. It was an advent that culminated in the most recent little update that I had given. On June 13th, I dropped a video called my Patreon announcement, and I decided with that announcement and then with my first member that I would invest in this camera. So I got this 4K camcorder and now I'm going to pay it off slowly but surely with that. That has been my idea of the Patreon and I'm going to see it through. All it takes is having one and you go from there. Also in speed round catch-up fashion, I want to kind of talk about, we have recently just had our Canada Day in the month of July at least, right? And it has come at the exact same time as all of these findings at these old residential schools of unmarked graves. And it's something that was predictable for anyone who knew what had been going on there, but to see the evidence just brings the fact to the foreground. It's beyond upsetting. It's literally a genocide, just a slow one. Over many years. I don't know how much. I don't know if it's over 100 years, but it's the history of the nation of Canada, of course. It's that old. It's before then, but specifically with residential schools, it's disgusting. It has brought me to question what it even means to be a Canadian. I was born here. My parents were born in Canada. My grandparents, about half of them are immigrants. The other half, their parents were immigrants. So I don't have a long, venerated history of being a Canadian, but I'm second generation, I say that much to myself. And it's all I've ever known. I've traveled to Europe, I've traveled to America, and when I was younger too, I didn't feel much of an identity or a connection to Canada in particular. Like I grew up here, but I wasn't like proud to be Canadian. I didn't associate myself with Canada. And the older I got, especially when I stopped drinking, I feel like I tried to form an identity for myself as a Canadian. And part of that was looking into the history of Canada. I also did that with the history of Belgium, which is also my descendancy with the last name Van Lanskewed. Belgium, they are also a young country in comparison to other European nations, and what they did in the Congo was absolutely disgusting. And with Canada, it's extremely fucked up, and for anyone who had involvement with that, who are still alive, what they did is unforgivable. It's fucked up. I think that's all there really is to say about it. I like to try to wrap your head around this system of control and the fact that they can make it seem so quiet and have it happen for so long without anybody knowing about it, and even to fucking unmark the graves is... And the fact that it didn't end until recently, like only 20 years ago. Like, I can't even fucking look at the lens while I say this shit. It's fucking disgusting. Like, it's like things like this that don't even make me want to have an identity. There's so much bad shit that has happened that it's the only solace or comfort I can even find whenever I think about humanity is in anthropology and thinking about our deep history. But as it stands now, I was born and raised in Canada. The government of Canada sanctioned the Roman Catholic Church to perform this act of residential schooling. It was helped by the RCMP, which kidnapped the children and enlisted them in the schools where they were abused, they were raped, and they were killed. The numbers are in the hundreds, and I'm sure it'll be over 1,000 before all of the search is done. And this is fucking Canada. So to quickly change topics, we are coming out of a massive heat wave that particularly struck the Pacific Northwest, so for Canada that's BC. Although all the way over in Ontario, almost the other side of the country, we also experienced the tail end of it, which was still very extreme. BC experienced record highs nearing 48 degrees Celsius, which is like deathly. And the specific weather condition that caused it is something called a heat dome, which is where the heat is trapped inside of the upper atmosphere and isn't allowed to escape. And so it sits and ferments. It is temporary, it does go away, which it is now on the tail end of doing as I'm recording this. But it also brings up the idea, and I guess just general philosophy of climate change. They say you dress for the weather and you live for the climate. But now as it stands, the climate is changing and the weather is becoming catastrophic. Every season that we move forward on this planet is breaking records. Every single season, not even every year, but every season, records are being broken because the weather is becoming more and more extreme. The only consistent thing is its escalation. And it's fucked up. It would not be going on as harshly as it currently is were it not for human inclusion with the insurmountable amount of pollution that we add. Now, I know it's not as extreme as something like a volcanic eruption that can cause a lot more pollution than humans, but what we have done is basically create a simmer constantly since whenever the Industrial Revolution was. I don't know, the 40s or 50s? Yeah. And we are living in it, and if I have children, which my philosophy is that I do want to have children, they will have to live in potentially even worse conditions as it continues to escalate, and we're just experiencing it. It was warned about in the 70s, it was publicly talked about in the 2000s, and now 20 years later, every single year we are breaking records with more extreme weather conditions. And it's going to continue to be a low simmer constantly, and flooding is going to worsen. Hurricane seasons are going to be worse. Ice storms, heat waves. I think forest fires are going to get a lot worse too. It's fucked, and we're coming at the tail end of a pandemic in 2021. So this year compared to last year, I would say is equal. although the economy and human society is opening up a lot more than it did, especially at the beginning of 2020, the condition is still not great, especially in Ontario. We're going through a slow process of reopening compared to America, which is now completely reopened by July of 2021. And that's kind of the world as it stands. There are political issues such as the constant conflict of Israel and Palestine. There is the issue of social media essentially being cigarettes. It is addictive and toxic, and our information is being gathered and siloed. It is being sold to advertising companies. Businesses are, I'd say, the same as it's always been. Local business hasn't really gone away, but it has definitely been hurt by the pandemic, while large businesses have been exempt from most of the shutdowns. So that sucks. However, technology continues to improve, and a hopeful state there is that we will be able to use green technology moving forward. There's silver linings to everything. And then politically, the Indigenous peoples of Canada are having a voice now more than ever, and it's most likely in large part due to social media. Millions of people are able to see them when, once upon a time, television broadcasts wouldn't have given them the time of day. So there are positive sides to look at this. And also to round off with the idea of this past Canada Day, the idea of Canada as a nation, while it is being run by the government, the past government that sanctioned this slow genocide of the Indigenous peoples, the identity of Canada and the idea of celebrating July 1st should be about the citizens of Canada. It should be about the idea and the promise of Canada as a young, multicultural nation that is the hope for the future of humanity as a global existence, instead of being bordered. Canada is still, of course, a bordered country, but I'm just saying the idea of it is alive in the fact that multiculturalism will not cause wars or strife, but will instead bring different people together in a melting pot. And granted, I understand that that's mostly just for metropolises, but the hope is there. And I believe in Canada as the identity of the people who live in it, the citizens. There are silver linings everywhere, so I'm not worried about the world as it stands, but it's still important to not shy away from it and to face what is currently happening in this world, but then also to notice the good in it. Notice the good in people, notice the good in life, in nature, notice the reality of the cosmos and the beauty that lies in it. Appreciate existence as it stands, being thankful every time you wake up and you're just alive and able to appreciate, and you're able to at least have an outlook of possibilities and of positivity. And with that, as always, I love all of you to no end. I wish you nothing but good fortune and a positive outlook on life. I ask you to remember to never stop thinking and questioning and being skeptical and understanding our place here and realizing that we're a part of nature and all that fun stuff, right? And that we're social creatures and that we exist here together and we ought to live together and work together and be together. And finally, wish you all sleep well, fellow primates. Until the next one. Bye-bye.